So the next step in becoming the MVP of media is really learning the lingo, learning what the terms are when it comes to media and what it's all about. I've been in the news for 10 plus years, more if you consider college and how long I'd studied it. And yes, you have to have a degree to be in TV, to be a journalist. Um, Blogging is very different. Even the people on the radio tend to have at least a bachelor's degree. And so don't discount the media. We know our stuff. Um, but what I want to talk about, first of all, what is news? And this is something that I try to send all of our clients. And even if you want to Google it yourself, I'll look up, what is or what are the 7 elements of news? And these are quite simple. And once you kind of get to know the value of news and what is considered news, you'll then start to look at stories that you may not have thought were news in the past and go, oh, I can see why that was a news story. Or look at cases and say, okay, I know why this is a news story. And so the first one is impact. And we talk about this a lot at our stations is what is the impact of this story? Is it going to help people? Is number one. Can this create change? Can this create good change? It's usually addressing a problem that people are having and trying to uncover why that's happening. But if it's only happening to one person, the impact probably isn't so great for the area because it's great. You can help one person, but not many people are going to care because it doesn't affect them. So when it comes to a story idea or something you're seeing in the news, think about how many people that impacts. Okay. Does it impact a neighborhood? Does it impact moms? Does it impact children? You'll see a lot of stories that are covered at schools or you know, uh, city council meetings. And that's because they're affecting entire populations of people. And so a lot of people will have insight on that. Number two is timeliness. A lot of news has to do with time because it's happening today. That's why things are called the news, because it's happening and it's new. So events that are happening today, what's happening tonight, news stations usually kind of like to look forward. So if you're looking a couple hours ahead, not a week ahead, not 3 days ahead, it's usually that day, that afternoon, or tomorrow. Um, and so timeliness is a big one. If it happened yesterday, old news. Prominence. So you might see a lot of celebrity in the news. If something crazy happened to a celebrity, or if something happened to the mayor, or your governor got COVID, well, that is prominence. Uh, People that are noteworthy. Proximity. This is really important for local news, including TV, paper, radio, not so much national news. Proximity has to do with, how close are you to the fire? You know, when you share news, think about the stuff you would talk about to your friends. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened here. I can't believe this happened next door to me. That's because the closer it is to the people affected or impacted by the story, um, the more people are going to talk about it, share about it. And so the closer it is to somebody, the more likely the news station is going to cover it. Because if something happened in Georgia and I'm 9 hours away because I'm in Florida, I don't really care about it, right? If there was a robbery in Georgia, there's robberies all over. It happened in Georgia, it's not affecting me. Bizarreness. So Florida is famous for this one. We all have heard of the Florida man. Bizarreness is just something everybody can relate to. It's dog bites man versus man bites dog. The crazier the better. Um, obviously people don't want to run things that are like nasty or you know lewd or whatever. The next one is conflict. Obviously the news causes or talks a lot about conflict, and that's again going into, trying to make a good change or addressing problems that the community or the state is facing, and trying to change that. Believe it or not, journalists are trying to make a better difference in the community by covering newsworthy events, because when that happens, other people see it, especially decision makers and lawmakers, and that will come to mind. And the more it's covered, the more it's in people's minds, and the more likely there is a chance for change. Currency, this one is obviously, it kind of has to do with timeliness, but also, how long those stories, currency is more like, it's a lot like time, but it's like, is it still happening? People will always cover something and say, this is still developing. We're still trying to find out more information about this. And so it's news that can last a while, and it's still changing and stuff like that. So COVID obviously is still current. It happened months ago, but it's still happening. And so it's a little bit different than timely, because timely is like right now, as of right now. Currency is more like over the length of time, but it's still happening. Um, and I think that that's really kind of encompassing the 7 elements of news. If anything covers that, kind of make a checkbox. This is literally what reporters do in the morning meetings. We write down the elements of news, and the more boxes that checks off, the more likely that producers or managers will let us cover it. So the more items you can check off on your list when you're coming up with a story idea for the news, the better that story is to make air or make publication. If you have any questions about the elements of news, we're here to answer those.